Unleash the power of data analytics. Thank you for joining the panel discussion today as we talk about how to use data analytics for your organization. Really excited to have, as you can see, four great panelists here today. The first one is Piyush Goel, who's our CEO at Beyond Key. In addition to that, we have Raj Krishnan, who's our industry digital strategist at Microsoft, and Piyush Rasharia, who's our director of IT at ShelterPoint. And finally, we have John Chang, who's the co-founder and CEO of Bowtrust. With that said, thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone who's here in the audience as well. We're really excited to be able to have you on this panel discussion. My name is Andy Nathan. I'm with Beyond Key as well. So before we get started, we just wanted to ask a quick question to get people started to understand what people's motivation would be for why you're attending the panel today. So I'm going to launch a quick poll. Just let us know what motivated you to attend the panel today. Are you looking to improve your decision-making, mitigate risks, personalize the customer experience, improve your research and development, streamline operations? If there's something else that we missed, feel free to put it in the comments and just click other. So I'm going to give about 10, 20 seconds so people could fill that out. I see people are still coming in. Thank you, everyone who's joining us right now. Okay, awesome. So it looks like we have a pretty good mix of answers here. 50% of people are obviously, as you can see here in the poll. Oh, now I'm sharing the poll. You're looking to improve your decision-making capabilities, which is awesome. In addition to that, 38% are looking to improve your research and development, and then 13% are looking to streamline operations. That's we'll definitely make sure, obviously, improving your decision-making, since 50% of people are looking to do that. We'll focus on that and also talk about some research and development today as well in streamlining operations. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. That is great. So just to give you an outline of the agenda today, we're going to cover 4 different points here. First, before we get into data analytics, we just want to give you a brief introduction to who we are at Beyond Key. We'll spend about 4 minutes on that. Once we've done that, we want to talk about the basics of data analytics, just going through what we're going to be talking about today, so we're all on the same page as we talk about data analytics. Furthermore, once we've done the basics of data analytics, we want to introduce the panelists. You've heard a lot of them talking right now just as we're going through, but we just want to give you a little intro into them so you know who's talking and where they're coming from. Fourth, once we've done the intro, we're then going to want to dive into the questions. And the questions that we're talking about, we have some questions that we created ahead of time for the panelists. And also, though, we encourage you to create your own questions as well. Also, because of the fact that this is a panel discussion, this webinar is being recorded. So if you do miss something and you're like, wait, what did Raj say about this? Or, John was talking about this, it was interesting, please let us know. We're going to send you a recording once we've gone through and we've cleaned up the recording. So you will get a recording after the fact. With that said, let's talk about number 1. Who are we? So Beyond Key provides enterprise applications and extended team services, including mobile, AI, machine learning, business intelligence, modern data warehouse, React, Mean, and cloud services. Sorry about that. We have 2 different divisions underneath Beyond Key. Those are Beyond Intranet, which includes Microsoft 365 services and products, including SharePoint, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, and Azure. The other division is Beyond Voice, which provides voice tech solutions, including chatbots, voice transcription, NLP, and behavioral analysis. As an organization, we have a team of over 275 strong and growing. With over 15 plus years of software development solution experiences, we're grateful to be able to work with over 200 plus clients globally on an ongoing basis. For Beyond Key, we've been recognized as one of the top 5 add-in providers on the Microsoft App Stores. That's similar to the Google Play or Apple App Store. We are a Microsoft Gold partner with capabilities in application development, application integration, and data analytics, which we'll talk about more later on, obviously, since that's the topic for today. We're also a Microsoft Silver partner for data with capabilities in data platform, and data center. We are certified for the third year in a row as a great place to work. And we were fortunate enough to win the Company of the Year from the Stevie Award winners last year as the Gold International Business Awards and the Titan 2021 Gold winner for the IT Service Provider of the Year. We were also recently just certified in Information Security Management Systems. We serve customers in the nonprofit, insurance, e-commerce, construction, finance, energy, automotive, manufacturing, healthcare, real estate, logistics, and facility management, including among many other industries as well. I mentioned earlier that we work with over 200 companies. We work with over 200 companies on an ongoing basis. Here are just some of the companies we work with right now around the world. So I mentioned this a few times, and I'm going to mention this again. This is a panel discussion. We really do value your input and your thoughts. The best way we could help you with this panel discussion is for you to ask questions. Please put your questions in the Zoom Q&A so the panelists can answer those questions as we go along. You can find the Q&A panel underneath at the bottom, right next to participant. You can see here as a screenshot shows you. With that said, let's talk about number 2. What is data analytics? So I know we have a wide variety of people here on this call today. Some of you are more technically inclined. You've probably been working with data analytics. For those of you who are new, what we're talking about for data analytics today is data analytics is the process of helping organizations improve their decision-making processes by leveraging their data. So you can see here, there's a screenshot on the right-hand side. And what this screenshot shows is how data has changed and how it's helping them change. In this case, helping them with their HR needs. So by looking at past data on how you're hiring employees, how you're filling different roles, you're able to predict what the future could look like. And in an uncertain market like we have today, that's a very powerful thing to have. We want to make sure that we give organizations the best tools possible, and data analytics is part of that mix. So with that said, let's talk about the number 3. Who are the panelists today who are going to help us understand more about data analytics? So the host for today is Piyush Goel. He's the CEO and founder of BeyondKey. And he founded BeyondKey in 2005. He runs BeyondKey from Chicago. And the great thing about what he's been able to do is he's been able to set the strategic direction, promote BeyondKey's values, lead their client-first culture, and ensure the company's sustainable growth. So one just quick story here for Piyush. So when I first started working, I had asked, what do you mean by client-first culture? And he told me a story about how one of the first clients that we had worked with was still a client today, 15 years later. That's what he means by client-first culture. It's the ability to work with clients and develop relationships with them over the long term. And he's really been able to set that type of client-first culture throughout the organization. He's also, in addition to that, someone who provides he's a seed investor and an advisor to entrepreneurs, since he is one himself and has been able to run a lot of different organizations. He's very close with the fintech community, combining his experience with technology. He also has professional accounting and finance degrees as well. He also recently completed an executive program on AI from MIT's Sloan School of Management. So with that, Piyush, I'm going to hand the reins off to you, and you can introduce the other panelists. Piyush? Hold on one second. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
It seemed like you muted me. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Thank you, Andy. Great intro. I'll take it from here. I think I would say thanks to you, thanks to the panelists here, and thanks to everyone who is part of this as audience. And I see the numbers have increased in the audience. That's great. So starting with Raj. Raj, welcome to this panel. Can you move to the next screen, Andy? Yeah, thank you. So Raj is a BeyondKey board member, and he has over 25 years of digital strategy experience. He's an active learner and as well as a trainer by heart, and he's based in Chicago. And having known him for now few years, I've seen Raj is always hands-on when it comes to emerging tech, and he continues to architect the right solution to solve business problems. He is a speaker at various technology conferences on topics covering blockchain, IoT, analytics on the edge, machine learning, different databases, including NoSQL and many more. And he has worked with many of the Fortune 500 companies. So welcome, Raj, and thank you for being here. He's in Microsoft. He's an industry digital strategist. Moving on, Piyush. So Piyush is same name. It'll be fun to call him again and again. So Piyush is certified in the governance of enterprise IT and many more. He has a lot of certification. If I start looking at the list, he has done something as information security manager certification, PMP, agile practitioner, machine learning certification, and many more. He's based in New York. And over the past 10 years, he's an active player in the digital transformation of the company he's working at, which is called ShelterPoint Life. He has 15 years plus experience in insurance, benefits, finance, and other related domain. Thank you, Piyush, for being on the panel.
Pleasure.
Well, yeah, welcome. And then we have John. Thank you, John. John co-founded Boutris to unlock the opportunities for Shopify merchants using tech and data. John is based in Oregon, and he had co-founded Planomics, a predictive data and marketing platform for mobile games and apps, which finally got acquired by Unity Technologies, which everyone knows about. He is an MBA in finance, marketing from Kellogg School of Management, and a BS in business from UC Berkeley. Great. Thank you, John, for being here. And I think moving on, just to make it fast, saving time, let's do one poll here and one poll later on. So, Andy, can you run the poll, please? So the question is, how long have you been using data analytics? And there are only a few choices. So we'll hold on for, say, 15 seconds, and then we'll move on. I think the next is we're going to start the panel discussion immediately after this poll. So please hold on. Do we see sufficient responses? Good enough, Andy?
Yeah, people are still answering. So let's give them another 10 seconds. So, okay. And then we could move on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show the results in a few seconds.
Sure.
Okay. Closing it in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Yeah, we had an interesting variety here.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So 2+ years is 50%. And there are 21% is not using it now. Okay, awesome. This will be useful for the discussion as well. Thank you. All right, so moving on, I think we can now start the panel discussion. And straight away, I'll pick up Raj as my first go-to person. Raj, the first question is for you. And then the opportunity here is that while I can ask a direct question to Raj, if someone else in the panel wants to chime in, please feel free to do so. And also, I will request the audience, whoever has any questions coming in, please throw your questions in the chat window, and Andy would be compiling the questions at the end, and he would be asking into the panel. So yeah, Raj, since we are talking about data analytics, what do you recommend is the best practice or practices for data collection? And how do you ensure that the data quality gets better every time? Do you think it'll be a good question for you?
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a very, very difficult question because probably the biggest challenge is getting data from multiple sources, right? Typically, even a small to medium organizations always have more than one data source, right? And when you have data sources, a lot of times there are data elements that are common too, right? You'll have some information about customer in one system. Let's say if it's an SAP, then you have some information about customer in Salesforce or Dynamics. So I think the biggest challenge is, first of all, identifying all these data sources. And even prior to that, to me, even realizing what is the data that you need, right? Before even you talk about data collection, how do you decide what data you need to collect? You cannot collect everything from every system, even with the concept of data lake, doesn't mean you take everything and dump it there. So one of the things I think, Piyush, we've been working, and I've been trying this out with people, is kind of start with what is the business outcome or what do the stakeholders need, right? So if you start with that, then you can actually narrow down to, like, one of the things we always start is forget about where the data is coming from, right? Data collection is not your first step. Your first step is what is that you're trying to do, what your business users want to know and learn from, right? So we typically, and we have done this, Piyush, with some of our customers, where we forget about the data collection. We just take a spreadsheet as the backdrop, and then we ask the stakeholders, what do you want to see? Then we generate the data and then show them and slice and dice data, right? Once we do this, then we look at, okay, these are all the data that I need. And then we try to map it to the source of the data, right? So the way that I would do is not like, even I was in a forum yesterday. The first thing people are saying is, oh, there are difficult people to get. I have to need 5 analysts, and I have to need, before even deciding what is that they need. And it's not about, I think the skill shortage is being a little overrated, and people think that is by hiring a few more people that you can solve this. First thing you need to know is what is that you're trying to do. Get the business users, find out what they need, identify the data element, and then go and say, okay, this data is coming from, let's say, SAP. This data is coming from Dynamics. Then come up with the strategy and technology to collect all this data. So to me, data collection starts with business needs. I just want to hear from other panelists, because we are always, like, one of the things I've noticed is when people try to start with data source, the project goes nowhere. Oh, I can't get it from SAP. And the whole thing is stuck. So data collection to me should be the step after you identify your business needs.
That's
yeah. I mean, I think we totally agree there. We have a saying on my team, which is like, bad data is everywhere.
Yeah.
And you really fall into that when you're looking to collect everything all the time, right? And if you don't start and kind of triage by what it is you're trying to solve, you'll get in a quagmire that you'll never get yourself out of, right? So from our perspective, especially for small business, we focus on a few things where we agree on the source of truth and then expand upon there as needed. But yeah, really, I mean, the worst is when a client says, well, this number doesn't add up to this number over here. Aren't they both supposed to be the same? And that just gets you a world of pain.
so true.
Cannot agree more. Actually, in data analytics, everything starts with the data. And everything is for the business. So it is extremely important to identify what business problem you're trying to solve with the data, and to solve that problem, which data is more high quality or more appropriate rather than which is easily available. So just don't start collecting everything. First, know what you need, and then collect. Also make sure that the source of the data is unbiased, accurate, and diverse. So, everything is from the origin. So this is the first question every organization needs to answer before starting.
That's true. Thanks, Piyush. Yeah. Go ahead.
And one of the things that, the quality of the data, like, once I know, let's say a customer is something that I'm going to be using to do a demographic analysis, right? And if I define what customer is, and here are all the things, their address, their location, right? The next step is, okay, where does this data lie? So that data could be in Salesforce as well as in SAP. And then my next step would be, which one takes precedence? Like, it could be based on the latest entry of the data, or my Dynamics is always the source of truth. Those things come later. So first thing is to identify your data elements that you need, then track it to the sources, and then decide which is the source of truth, and then get the thing. Now, data quality has multiple elements, right? One of the things is that it's not only about which is the right data. Sometimes there are missed data entry, right? So people would make one, like, if it's not a drop-down box, people would enter something, and then, some similar data, you may miscategorize it. So there are various aspects to data cleaning and data quality, and there are a lot of tools to do that. But I think the first step is to know what data that you want, and then look to see where they are, and then come up with methods to clean them and analyze the quality.
That's a good point, Raj. I think I'll piggyback on this question and ask a question to John. And since, from the e-commerce space, right, since you're very closely associated with the e-commerce ecosystem, and we all know that the data is often stranded in different silos, what challenges does that present? And what do you think are the opportunities that can be unlocked having a single source of truth?
Yeah, I mean, Raj touched upon it. One of the challenges, which is like you have revenue number here, revenue number over there, they don't match. What do you pay attention to? I think that's the starting challenge. But especially from a small business perspective and the use of SaaS tools, everybody has their own dashboards. Everybody has their own reporting now. And how do you kind of merge those worlds? As businesses grow, it becomes a huge challenge, right? And the thing that you miss out on is, sure, the customer service rep might be able to understand how he's doing with customer service, but does he understand, is this a VIP customer, right? Does he understand the implications of revenue down the road, right? The user acquisition person, do they understand the LTV of a customer and how much they cost down the line? You can't do that unless you start to join the data, right? And from that perspective, what we've seen is a lot of these small businesses become little islands where there are teams that just operate independently and start to diverge from where they actually need to be going. And ultimately it costs profitability, right? Ultimately it costs efficiency. And from that perspective, for a small business, you really have to be able to bring the data together. Ultimately, you're flying blind, and that's the last thing that they can afford to be doing.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks, John. Piyush, a question for you now. Since data analytics is useful in each function of business, and since you are from the insurance domain, where does the business benefit the most from data analytics?
As you already said, Piyush, having a deeper insight of your business can never hurt. So I believe every area, wherever we can do it, I cannot say that it does not improve or does not help our business in any ways. But to answer your question directly, I would like to focus on what we have done. So far, we have been focused around customer services and sales performance areas with the application of data analytics. And our goal was to plan for our capacity for our growth. So capacity planning, identification of pain areas and automation opportunities, and internal process improvement has been the focus so far for us. So these are the areas where we have applied data analytics majorly.
Got it. Thank you, Piyush. Raj, there are a lot of emerging tech options for analytics, and they have been around and being discussed. And I've talked to you many times, like about autonomous AI, deep neural networks, and others. I would request if you can throw some light around these options. So since our audience is diverse, knowing you, I would request the question or answer can be less technical. So just keeping that in mind, your answer would be appreciated.
Yeah, sure. I was just chuckling when I saw the poll. How long have you been data and analytics? I think you're doing data and analytics from day one. I think because just think about it. If you don't have a big database, you use Excel. If you want to say, how much am I going to buy for the next 6 months? You always did analytics. But what has changed is the tools have changed. The ability to do them in a more efficient way has changed. And more importantly, the data that you need to make decisions have become very wide, and the veracity of the data, the velocity of the data, social media structure, and all those things have changed. Everyone in every business is always doing analytics. Otherwise, they cannot run the business, right? And what has been happening is they're using spreadsheets or paper and pencil or just making estimates. So the tools have become now more and more available. Things that require a data scientist and a heavy investment has gone. The cloud has really enabled a lot of these on-demand capacity. Those have changed. So to me, and I'm just looking at it, since you said not to be technical, the first thing that I would look at it to say is that probably even getting the right data for basic reporting is probably would be my first step one before I start talking about deep neural network and advanced analytics, right? So even maybe and now one good news is a lot of the tools now, when you're doing reporting, they also provide insight. A great example is like if you take a Power BI, if you're looking at a bar chart, and now you right click and say, hey, explain to me why is this drop? Now, behind the scene, they are doing some analytics, machine learning, without you having to know anything about machine learning, and they're providing, right? So a lot of this democratization of these capabilities built into the tool is really helping people. So I would kind of start with out-of-the-box tools first. Again, we all talked about it, right? We need to find out the data. We need to do the data ingestion. We need to clean up the data and create a data storage. And then with data visualization, use a lot of tools from Power BI, Tableau, a lot of the tools that are available, and then probably move on to some of the advanced even in machine learning, there are now drag and drop out of the box tools, right? Where SageMaker or Azure ML tools that allows you to kind of build, hey, here's my data, give me the forecast, right? It's now as simple as that. You don't need to be a data scientist. That's why I kind of want to reiterate, it's not about skill shortage. A lot of people are not using the people they have in their own organizations and enabling them with the right tool, which can fill a lot of the gap, the so-called talent shortage. I think there's enough tools available to simplify and do these things.
Yeah, Raj, I agree with you. And especially knowing so many out-of-the-box tools and solutions are available, it's a good foot in the door kind of model for getting into data analytics. I think it's great for organizations who have not been into this area. So thanks for sharing that. I think I'll ask our team as well that the audience here, they can share what kind of out-of-the-box tools are available. They can send an email to them so everyone comes to know these are things which are readily available. So yeah, thanks Raj for that. And Piyush, you want to chime in?
Yes, I would like to add just one point here. That, I understand there are drop-down tools, plugins and easy tools are available, but still the lack of skilled trained resources who understand your business problem and, they do not move their focus from what problem they're trying to solve is still very important, because data analytics can show you the trends and can tell you the data, but what is driving the trend or what actions are required from your side to improve your business? Trends are basically not analysis. They are just potentially correct directions at best. So I think, that kind of resources are still scarce. And that is one of the problems that we are facing in this area.
So Piyush, I want to just latch on to that. So, and I probably, maybe I oversimplified about lack of talent, but what I meant was, the kind of talent you're talking about is not about a guy with the machine learning and data science degrees. I think what you are talking about is the people, when they see the data, to have the domain expertise and interpret it and make the decisions. So my ask to you is that how come there are people who are already in the organization who know the process? How come they're not enabled to leverage these tools to add value? Because even if you bring somebody from outside, they don't know your business as much as the people who are in your organization. So what are your thoughts on that? How can you enable your existing people who may not be technical, but now with these tools, can you make these power uses to add value to the organization?
Absolutely. And that is the big challenge that everybody is facing. And that is the big power. User buy-in, the business leaders buy-in and their participation, not only in selection the tool, it should be so easy to use. And people who are collecting the data, our customer service, our data center people who are collecting the data, once they are involved in data analytics and they understand the value of data they are collecting is important, how they should collect it cleanly, keep it, sane, that is very important. So that is actually a very, very good point, that involvement of business units and the buy-in from business leaders, participation of business teams should be there in data analytics from day one. Since we start planning to go that route, they should be involved.
Yep, interesting. I mean, there's one of my questions to be asked to you, but I'll modify that and ask you later. So, yeah, John, a question for you here. Based on your experience on data analytics across brands, which you have been working with so many brands around e-commerce, where do these brands need to invest more to drive growth?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because even with a lot of these self-service tools that we've been talking about, for a small business owner, for an entrepreneur who's doing every single function in the business, I guess I'll be a little controversial in here and say they don't need more dashboards, right? We went to a lot of our brands and say, hey, Google Analytics is being deprecated. You got to move to GA4. And they hadn't looked at Google Analytics in 3 months, right? And we're like, how are you running your business? And they're like, well, I don't know. I can see the graph, but what do I do about it? Right. And I think the biggest low-hanging fruit when it comes to maybe even larger businesses is that you have to connect the insight to action, right? You have to be looking at the data for a reason other than perusing it and looking at graphs going up and down, right? I think the thing that we kind of preach is, let's start, as Roger's saying, both on the problem side, let's start with the problem, right? Okay, sales are down. Then let's go and explore the data for that reason, right? And if it comes to I think being much more specific about why you're using the data versus a general, I know I should use data. I have these dashboards. I look at it once a week, but I'm not sure what I look at, and I'm not sure what to take from it. And I think that's a challenge that we saw even at Unity, where we started to roll out a lot of these self-service tools and really had this, my team led the citizen data scientist or citizen, data participant initiative. Nobody used the tool. Nobody logged in. No one used it until we formed education teams that went out there and said, here's the problem you can solve, customer service rep, by doing these types of things. And then they connected the dots. And then they started to explore more. But I don't think we as practitioners can discount the hurdle, the intimidation that, charts and graphs and data for the average employee who doesn't do it on a daily basis, right? It can be intimidating, but once you see the power of it, you'll want more. But that really comes from action. It really becomes imperative that something happens from the inside rather than, okay, well, yeah, I know why my sales drop, but I don't know what to do about it, right? Like that's the key, I think, is the missing part of analytics.
Yeah, I just want to add, because perfectly, so these days, data dashboards are what I call postmortem, right? Something happened and you know what happened. But what we are talking about is what you mentioned is actionable insight, right? That's what is now people are looking for, and people have realized that. Otherwise, that's why I'm so much against this nice looking dashboard. People, it looks colorful and bar charts. Okay, what are you going to do with it, right? If it told you didn't do well, okay, you didn't do well, and that's utterly useless. What can it do better if it doesn't do it? And I'm seeing that now more and more. Like, for example, right? I have a forecast, and I go to a dashboard, and it tells me, hey, you're not going to meet your demand because of the forecast. Yes, good to know. But what I would like to know is, okay, if I click on that, would it find me an alternate supplier? Would it find me another warehouse from which I can move so that I can solve that problem? Just knowing the problem and the thing is not just enough, right? I think that's what everybody is now saying. Like, I had recently a case where, and I was in Africa, and one of the call center guys told me, okay, what is it that I can do for you? He had a very, very simple answer. He said, you know what? Every day my guys come, and there is I got a list of 100 people to call. And then I start calling them. And those people are not the people I should be calling. If you could just tell me, use your analytics and tell me, here are the 50 customers who are at the verge of being churned because of problems, my life would be a lot more effective. And then this is like selling French fries. Would you like to add French fries, right? But you just sell French fries in a hardware store, it won't work. So it's just knowing the context and facilitating using data to make constructive action is what I think what you're referring, and I 100% I'm with
exactly.
you. That's what data analytics should do.
Sure. Piyush?
Yeah, absolutely. And having the ability to measure that once you have identified the problem, you have a solution in place. Now you have that confidence that when I implement the solution, I can measure it. I can see the performance, I can get the feedback, and I can make the next informed decision. So that confidence is also very important, in which data analytics is very handy.
True. So it's now funny is we have data, we have tools. How do you use it, right? So that's where we're stuck. So we have to solve that problem in our next webinar. So moving on, Piyush, question for you. And also, I'm just looking at the participants in the audience, like, please feel free to share more questions. We see some questions are coming in and we'll answer them as soon as we are just over with our panel discussion. Piyush, data analytics strategy for any nowadays in the organizations are commonly considered as part of digital transformation, right? And everyone talks about it, like we have been saying about it right now. How do you get stakeholders buy-in for data analytics projects or tools?
So, I cannot disagree at all. Data analytics is an integral part of digital transformation. The phrase we use is data-driven business transformation. The data analytics helps us identify the real problems. Digital transformation, suggests the use of technology to solve those problems. Also, the application of digital transformation solutions like ML and AI, once you implement those are again advanced analytics. So they go hand in hand. Nobody can deny that. About business traction, as we just talked about, to earn the traction, the key is business leaders' involvement and their buy-ins. They should be involved from very beginning of the process in adoption of any technology or any solution digital transformation brings in. The business leader should be convinced and on board with all the major decisions throughout the project or the initiative. Also, the tool selection, the reporting tools that they use, if they cannot understand or make interpretations themselves, it all becomes useless. Mm-hmm. So user buy-in is the key to traction.
Anyone wants to chime in as how should we do that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, you talked about stakeholders, right? How do you get stakeholders interested in? I think they don't care if you use ML, if you use Power BI, you use Tableau, they don't care. If there is an impact in the operations of either improved customer satisfaction or operational efficiency, they'll buy in. I'm just, many years ago, I used to run a call center, right? One of the things was that, on Monday morning, we would come and it's a real peak, and then we would call a few people, and we have to pay them 4 hours when they come in. They come in. By the time they come from their thing, it'll be 12 o'clock. The call volume drops. Now I pay 4 hours for them, and they go home. I had more problem. I paid more, and I did not solve the problem. Now it was several years ago, before AI and ML. There was a university, and I did was just to do a simple linear programming problem to say that, hey, here is my historical data. Tell me how many people I should have, right? Now, the buy-in, I spent a few $1,000s to the research team. The business stakeholders just were completely with me because it's going to give me 2 to 3% or 5% drop down, decrease in the call drops and reduce my cost because I'm well planned. And it solves the problem. So the best way to get stakeholder buy-in is to show key metrics and the impact of the key metrics with the introduction of data and analytics. I think every time these days when I start a project, I start with what we call objectives and key results. Here's the objective, here's the key result, here is the metric that I'm trying to target. And when I'm done with this key metric is going to go up or down based on what it should be. So and I want to monitor that. And if this thing doesn't work, I would drop that and do something that has got real impact on business.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, can we run one more poll? Andy, can you please run poll here so we can get some feedback from the audience here? Okay. What department?
You see it live?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Oh, sorry. No, I just want to make sure you saw it.
Yeah. So what department would benefit from data analytics? Yeah, the question seems incomplete here. So it's operations, human resources, sales, marketing, finance, accounting, customer service. executive department, and IT. So let's hold on for 10, 15 seconds to see what the output is. It may benefit the panelists here. Yeah, we have two experts, one from e-commerce, one from insurance, and one from all domains. So, Andy, let me know when you're ready.
It looks like people are pretty good with answering the question. So I'm going to close it in a second. I see 1 or 2, 3, 2, 1. It's pretty diverse. People want it for everything.
Yeah, so I think we have
That is the right answer.
Great. Sales and marketing still the leader here. So probably we know the audience. So not everyone has participated, but whoever have, so we know the answer here. Great. So I believe everyone has seen this, and I'll move on with my next question, and we'll use this output in our questions. So
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this then.
Yeah, please do. Raj, a generic question for you, and it is basically based on the enthusiastic audience here who are aspiring to get into data analytics in their IT roadmap. How do you think one should get started on data analytics, and how to leverage the ready services available in the market? It's like more of how than, so can you please help us?
Yeah, so I mean, if the question is for people, how do they get into this and acquire? One of the nice trends that I'm seeing these days is no longer. I think we are coming to this kind of European style education, right? It's no longer your 3 or 4 year degree thing that's required to almost to get into anything. Some kind of a vocational and this massively open courses that are available have really transformed the way that one can find and pursue the career. So and frankly, I will tell you, several years ago, it was through EDX course that I got really deep into analytics. So I started off, and you don't even have to pay. You just pay $99 if you want to get a certificate. And it really changed my life. And a lot of these Harvard and MIT professors with excellent case studies. So my first thing is, internet, if it has done anything to us, is making such things available easily and in a very good way, right? It's not crap courses. It's not like this something that you go and do, or not even this. I even hesitant to use some of these nonprofit universities. There are a lot of things that are available from legitimate resources. The EDX is one of them that I can think of. I would start off taking with some of those fundamental courses and see where your interest lies. Some people like statistics. Some people like a more business analysis. So that would be my first thing. The second thing is, both Amazon, Azure, Google have so many fantastic modules and trainings that are available. Once you pick something, there is actually, if you want to do conversational agents, they have a complete modules that you can go and learn. So, and I'm also a volunteer here at Chicago Public School, and when I go there, I saw that a teacher put in technical engineer, $80,000, analyst. Yes, you know what? Money matters, but please don't do something looking at the salary. Do something that you're passionate about. Try a few things, learn the fundamentals, pick your area of interest. You will succeed, and you will find well-paying job, and then you can continue to evolve. So my recommendation is, go for some of those open courses. And then there are a lot of code camps also, good code camps. So I would not recommend going a master's right away. I mean, it's good to do master's, but I would do that if I find I'm really passionate, I want to really get into. Otherwise, there are so much option available. That would be my thing. Take some parallel, some of these courses, go to the cloud provider and get certified with the cloud provider. And your career is, there's so much opportunities these days.
Yeah, I'd go back to what Raj said very early, right? When it comes to an organization. For me, I got into analytics when I was on Wall Street, solving my own problems, right? And I basically used Excel to draw a scatter line and said, oh, you can draw a regression line here. Wow. And then I showed that to my boss. He's like, wow. And that became kind of the impetus for whenever there's a problem, first thinking about, well, is there a data solution to this, right? Is there a way I can quantify the answer? Otherwise, especially like in investment banking, the guy with the biggest title or salary gets to make the decision. Well, if you could bring data and go, well, look at actually a trends like this, or look at, the margins look like that, then you have a tool that really allows you to stand out. And that caused me to want to invest further and further my understanding of analytics and the use of data. And ultimately, I tried to take courses on deep learning, whatever it is, and I hit a math ceiling. But even when you pull back from that, you're like, wow, a lot of it's just a regression line. Like if I can get my hands around that, there's a lot I can do and impact my own career, right? Like be able to really kind of make better decisions, whether for my own business or in a job. That I think, when you're intrinsically driven, you'll go out and kind of get the knowledge that you like, because a lot of that machine learning stuff, if you get to it, is further down the line, right? A lot of simple stuff has huge impacts that you could do it out of the box, very, very bite sizes.
Wow. I think that's what the audience is looking at. Candid response as how do you apply? So, yeah, that's a great one. John, a question for you here.
Sure.
I've been part of e-commerce myself. I ran an e-commerce business for 5 years. So I know how difficult it is, where people from outside probably don't realize it. So I have huge respect for whoever is involved in e-commerce sales. So the question here is, what do you feel is the biggest change? I mean, we have seen in analyzing e-commerce sales in the last decade.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest change I would say happened in April of last year, specifically when Apple made their privacy changes, which caused basically every e-commerce shop until that day, direct to consumer, just relied on Facebook, $1 in, $1.50 out, and it was a beautiful machine. That machine broke when the ability to collect the data to do that targeting at scale was removed from the Facebook platform, right? So we have seen tremendous structural changes in the e-commerce space because it is no longer, I guess, an easy question about how you do marketing. And a lot of where we focus our efforts is inferential versus kind of the direct data that you had from cookies and IDFA. Right. So now it's like, well, we have to predict the impact of showing an impression versus knowing directly what that causal link is. And I think what a lot of brands have been slow to do is move to a multi-channel, like just, you used to be rely on Facebook. You can't do that anymore. You have to reach people everywhere. And how do you do that when you have imperfect data? I think that's the great challenge in front of, e-commerce shops today, but the ones who figure it out are going to have a massive advantage that didn't exist when Facebook was equal for everybody, right? So I think that goes back to e-commerce stores are now technology companies. They are data companies. And the ones who use data the best are going to be the ones who win, given everything else equal. And I think that's where the piece where a lot of founders are like, oh, wow, this is intimidating. This is crazy. My revenues are going like that. What do I do? That's where we connect it back to, hey, you've got to start to understand the data and you've got to start paying attention to it because nobody else is going to do that for you.
Very interesting answer. One of my friends, he's a typically from business, running a e-commerce business on Amazon. And I was surprised when he was talking about AI tool he's using. I was like, you don't know about anything about AI from AI? I don't know. And he was talking about AI, how he's able to get his business from 1x to 10x just by using that. So it's very interesting how these companies become more tech companies than just being pure business. Yeah,
absolutely.
So John, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I just want, I did not realize that major impact. Are you saying now that like in terms of targeting customers, getting their profile, and all that is gone now? You're in blind. You just going somewhere without. I didn't realize that it had such a major impact. On data
that connection has been broken. So a lot of the third-party data has gone away.
Okay.
So the practical implication for businesses is a deeper investment in first-party data capabilities,
Okay.
right? The ability to utilize your first touch with the consumer to harness your ability to personalize the experience, your ability to sell to them. It's just a whole different world. And it happened overnight. As soon as iOS 14.5 went out, the world changed and nobody was prepared for it.
And that's also another reason trend we are seeing is everybody is focusing on customer experience, because what they're saying is that, okay, if I don't know, if I make even my customer should be my own salesperson. If I provide outstanding experience with the products and services, they will spread the word rather than me having to target the customers. They become your salesperson.
Yeah, you're going to see brands try to learn about you much faster. Right. Whereas before they could buy that data.
Yeah.
Now that you're going to have quizzes, now you're going to have better website behavioral analysis. Now you're going to have email, SMS that's highly personalized that you then build a customer record around. Because otherwise, the power of e-commerce is it's digital. It can adapt to who you are. But if you don't do that, you're going to lose out to the mall, the retail, the wholesale, whatever it is. You have to start to harness that data and really have a one-to-one conversation with people with one hand tied behind your back, right? Because you don't have the data about everything else that they did that day.
Got it. Great. What I'll do is, looking at the time, we have just 8 minutes left. So I also pick up some questions from the audience. So is that okay? I'll just share this question. It's open for the entire panel. The question is, which is the latest and most efficient data analytics tool currently one should use? So it's again the same recommendation they're looking at. So I would say, please give your candid tips which you are lively using. So please, I would say start with Raj and probably I'll move on if someone has to answer. Yeah, the same question, but asked differently.
So, you're asking a Microsoft guy. I can't say other than.
Go ahead.
I just got to say we got the best. No, I think, one of the things that I was looking at Gartner's Magic Quadrant. When you look at Power BI, they are right on top, right? And one of the things that I'm seeing with the Power BI is the enhanced capability around Power BI. Now, it's no longer a data visualization tool, right? It is now data orchestration tool. Now there's a new feature introduced, Data Mart, which is everything built into it, including data flow, data insight, data visualization capabilities, customized visuals. So I think, and you even look at the Magic Quadrant, Tableau is in one of the top ones, and then the Power BI is here. So it is definitely gotten the attention to the people, and everywhere it seems to be picking up. And for small group of people, small, medium business, who are not thinking about Snowflake or Synapse or anything, Power BI kind of gives you all-in-one type of solution. So to me, I'm sorry I have a bias, but that's what I think is one of the best in the market. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Raj. Piyush?
Yep. I second Raj. My personal favorite is Power BI. And I just want to emphasize how important the selection of that tool is. It is so easy to get confused today. There are so many available, cheaper, faster. They will promise different things, may be true. I have not tried all of them, of course. But my personal is Power BI. And one important thing that I also mentioned before is to keep in mind what your business decision makers can use easily. That is very important. So the ease of use is something in particular I like about Power BI.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, from a small
we need your unbiased opinion.
Yeah. I mean, from a small business perspective, the answer obviously is the tool that you're going to actually use is the most important tool to have, right? I think for all the warts on it for small business, Google Analytics is where you have to start because it's free, right? And that gets you the basics. It's incredibly complex, bloated, and more suited for sales and marketing analysis than anything else. But at the end of the day, it's a free tool to get you an understanding of what you actually want, right? So I agree. We've used Power BI, we've used Data Studio, we've used Tableau. It really depends, I think, at that next step on what problem you're trying to solve, right? Like, what is it? Who's going to be using it, and how do you want to solve it? Like we were the first customers of Snowflake at Unity, right? And the engineers were so excited about it, the rest of the company couldn't care less, right? And ultimately, it really depends on the right tool for the right problem. But if I was going to start somewhere, a free tool that's simple, direct to the point, especially at the levels that I'm working with, smaller companies.
Yeah,
I
makes
have
sense.
a quick
Start with the
question.
cheaper one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying that I agree. Start with the free tool, get some experience, and you will realize what you're facing, what problems or what benefits you're getting, and then you can compare to the next bigger one.
Yeah, and I mean, even Excel is now so advanced where I can connect to a data source and do a lot of the pivoting and things to get started. John, I have a quick question for you on the Google Analytics. It looks like you're primarily focusing on, hey, how many people visited, what are the clicks, and thing. That's your primary objective for the sales and marketing.
Yeah. That's right.
So I want to know, because now there are some comparative tools like App Dynamics or Application Insights from Microsoft and Looking Glass, and there are other tools. Could you just tell us what made you not go for a slightly, because some of these advanced tools, in addition to giving you clicks, they tell you what the flow was, where did they drop off. They give you a lot more deep data about a user journey. So can you just tell us where would you stop and where would you go for more advanced?
So with Google Analytics, you're exactly right. Like it's kind of aggregated, slice and dice type data. We have tools such as Heap or other things that collect every single click, the context around that click. For us, we don't use any of those tools at Boucher's. We have built our own data platform that kind of sucks all that data in together across all our brands so we can slice and dice it. But, that's $1 million a year expenditure that none of our brands want to be doing themselves, right? So I think it's levels on which I think something you said really early was a fallacy we fell into at Unity. Is like, collect everything. Let's just collect everything, instrument it everywhere. Let's collect everything. We got a big data lake. We got free credits. Let's collect everything. We then went back and did an audit, I think 4 or 5 years in, and 98% of the data we collected was never used or looked at or had any purpose other than slowing down the queries we really wanted to run, right? So I think from that respect, I really love just the idea, let's solve a problem. Let's solve one problem, right? Let's not worry about saving the earth or anything else like that. Let's solve one problem and then we'll build from there. But if we solve one problem well, people get excited, right? We did the other thing where like huge data team, huge data lakes, huge everything. No one did anything except engineers got to design something that they want to design. And at the end of the day, nobody cared, right? And I think that's a fallacy I would hope people don't fall into, right? Like really just solve a problem, use data, make a good decision. From there, I think the world, opens up. But until you do that, it's just a fishing expedition.
Yeah, don't let the tools drive what you want.
Exactly. Yeah, and don't let the engineers just do whatever they want.
So, friends, there's so many other questions coming in. Probably what we'll do is we'll answer them one-on-one separately, and I'll ask the questions to you offline. And probably if there's something relevant, we can do that. But I will have an answer for the discussion we were doing. If I had asked in my house, my daughter heard it, she would have said Looker because she's working on Looker. So that's another problem. So moving on, I would say thank you to everyone who is part of this panel. I have so many questions, but I didn't know time would fly so fast. So Andy, over to you now. You're muted, probably.
Thank you, Piyush. So I think I somewhat understand data analytics, and then I hear experts talk about it, and I realize how much I have to learn. So thank you, everyone, Raj, John, Piyush. And Also, if you are interested after listening to this, you want to learn more about data analytics, you want to explore how to use it to kickstart your organization's operations and revenue, let us know how we could help you out. I'm putting our contact information in the chat right now for you to copy it. You can reach us at contact@beyondkey.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so grateful to have you on this call, and thank you to our panelists for the great insights into how to use data analytics. We hope you unleashed your data analytics for your organization. Have a great day and a better week.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.